Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Environmental Justice Now. I'm Rosina Snow, the Director of Communications for Virginia Interfaith Power and Light, and I'm joined today by Benjamin Hoyne, who is our Policy Director, aka our Climate Equity Fellow. Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we have a short episode for you today because we've been talking, if you follow us at all, if you get our newsletters, if you follow us on social media, if you follow our work, you know that we've been very focused on RGGI, which is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. And we've been asking people to do action alerts on that. And we've produced some other episodes diving into more what it is and the benefits of it. But we want to make sure everyone's up to date on what has happened now that the General Assembly has concluded. Before we move forward with the discussion, though, as always, we want to acknowledge the indigenous people's land that we are currently on, unceded land. And I'm in Charlottesville currently, which is the Monacan land. Richmond is, I believe, Powhatan and Hoyne land. And if you don't know where you are, you can go to native-land.ca to find out. It's definitely something we should all be aware of. So speaking of land and respecting it, and all of our resources, water, air, land, let's circle back to RGGI. So Benjamin knows all about RGGI. We'll do like a the shortest possible recap of what it is, and then we'll go into what's going on with it at this point in time. So Benjamin, what is RGGI? What are the benefits of it? How does it work? Give us a 30-second.
Yeah, thanks, Rosina. I might take more than 30 seconds, apologies. But RGGI certainly does affect our land, our air, and our water. So RGGI, also known as the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, is a multi-state collaborative of states from Virginia all the way up the eastern seaboard to Maine. And it's in essence a carbon emissions reduction program, a cap and trade program, where power plants, electric power plants in these states have to go to auction and kind of, in essence, purchase credits for the privilege of polluting. And what this does is kind of incentivizes power plants to no longer pollute and use clean energy resources or carbon-free resources. And so it's been going on, I think, for a good decade or more along the eastern seaboard. Virginia just joined in 2020, I should say, via legislation, so officially implemented in 2021, and has been participating in the auctions up until this past December. The current governor, Governor Youngkin, has attempted to pull Virginia out of RGGI through kind of a regulatory process via the Air Board. But up until, again, really 2024, up until this year, so December 2023, we participated in the final auctions kind of as an active participant. Virginia has generated just over $800 million in those 3 years from 2021 to 2023 in revenue. And Virginia has chosen to put those revenues in two major streams. Just about 50%, so just over 400 million of that 800 million is dedicated for low-income energy efficiency projects, and just under half is dedicated for community flood protection. So that's coastal resiliency, but also community flood protection you can have in Southwest Virginia, Central Virginia, and elsewhere. So I think it's about 372 million out of the 800 or so million that's been generated over the 3 years. These have funded projects in every part of the Commonwealth. Every region of the Commonwealth has been funded through most of these projects. Now, there are about half, so I think around $400 million of that $800 million has not been allocated, has not been sent out. And that's kind of where we find ourselves in the current challenge. So we've had a revenue that has been generated but not allocated from the previous auctions. And now we are no longer participating in the auctions, officially no longer participating in RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, as of again, like January 1st, 2024, more or less. And that the law has not changed. Virginia joined RGGI in 2020 through legislation and passed the House of Delegates, passed the state Senate, and was signed by the governor. That has not changed, but the current governor has taken executive action and administrative action to remove us from RGGI. There is a lawsuit pending in Floyd County to kind of require Virginia to rejoin RGGI. We'll see how that plays out. Another path to get Virginia to kind of recommit to RGGI or override this kind of executive action from Governor Youngkin took place at the most recent General Assembly session that certainly y'all have been hearing about, and we'll talk more about, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, so I actually just shared in the comments under these videos on Facebook and YouTube the links to other episodes we've done that have been real deep dives into these funding, basically the areas that have received the funding, the energy efficiency and the flooding preparedness. And that gives a deeper sense of just how beneficial this program has been, and also just what good policy it is, common sense policy, no brainer. Virginia needs this. So if you are just learning about RGGI now, or you want to share with others why it's important and what the benefits have been, please do check out those episodes and share them. It's definitely eye-opening. I think there are those who have just been counting on people not knowing about it. And because anyone who learns about it is going to be like, this makes a lot of sense. This is just good policy. So, so you've taken us up to kind of the General Assembly that just finished. So what were and as you said, there is a lawsuit pending that's separate. That's something that could affect whether Virginia re-enters RGGI or not. But separate from that, there were some efforts at the General Assembly this year to try to clarify and make sure that we're in it definitively and receiving those funds. So can you tell us about some of those efforts and what ended up happening?
Yeah. And so the way the legislative process works, at its most basic, it was a kind of a budgetary process, strategy really that the Democrats that control both the House and the Senate attempted while collaborating on a budget with the Republican governor. And so every General Assembly must pass a budget, especially in the even years like we're in now. So this is the kind of the first year of a budget cycle. So July 1st of this year of 2024, we will have a new budget, a new 2-year budget in Virginia. If we didn't have that, there could be a government shutdown, which we've never had before in Virginia. And so what the leadership and the budget kind of committees did in both the House and the Senate was in essence put language, kind of a stipulating language in the budget that said, we can't have a budget unless we re-enter RGGI. You know, that wasn't the exact language, but more or less that was the sentiment was, you know, in order to have any budget, first and foremost, we must rejoin RGGI, and then all of the budget can kind of, you know, apply and move forward. The governor, obviously, who removed us from RGGI via executive action, did not like that. He had an opportunity to amend the budget. He removed that. He amended that out. And then the budget came back to the General Assembly, and there was over 200 amendments. Actually, that was one of them. This was back in April. And what they decided to do was to kind of table the budget for the time being and come back at a special session that was just a couple weeks ago here in May. And so kind of over that month or so from mid-April to mid-May, the budget was worked on behind the scenes. There was some additional revenue generation, kind of tax returns, et cetera, that came in during that time that helped alleviate some of the financial challenges. And so kind of in the behind closed doors horse trading, a lot of the priorities of the Democratic leadership, budget leadership, was able to get met. The Republican governor's priority of no tax increases was able to get met because of the increased revenue. And then there was the RGGI stipulation, and ultimately the Democrats dropped their requirement that Virginia have recommit to RGGI in order to have a budget. And so the budget was agreed to, I think it was just the beginning of last week, and more or less Democrats got most of their priorities except for RGGI. The Republican governor was able to get RGGI out of there, and additionally get the tax increase, a digital tax increase out of there as well. And so now we have a final compromise budget that should guide Virginia for the next 2 years. Certainly a year from now, there'll be an opportunity to kind of amend it. But barring any changes, this is what the budget that Virginia will have for 2024 until June 30th, 2026.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. And to clarify, RGGI does not raise taxes.
RGGI does not raise taxes. It is a carbon emissions trading program, so it's really big. It does have an impact on your electricity bill. Whether you're in Dominion territory, Appalachian Power territory, what have you. So it raises your electricity bill slightly, but then produces, as we said, $800 million in 3 years to fund energy efficiency programs, which would reduce your energy bill potentially, and then also community flood preparedness programs, which are critical for infrastructure here in the Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm. Right, and let us also just acknowledge that there was a bill passed this year that was about allowing Dominion to explore the small nuclear reactors technology that would lead to ratepayer hikes, or is that how? Yeah, ratepayer hikes. So for some reason, that's not being considered an increase, that we should try to avoid. But the RGGI, which is producing hundreds of millions of dollars, that in some cases, especially for low income folks, is leading, because of energy efficiency, lowers your energy bills. It's led to major decreases, way beyond any slight increase that Dominion might be pointing to there. So there really is no consistency around this principle that we're not going to, the principle that was pointed to as an excuse to get rid of RGGI.
Yeah, you're correct, Rosina. Additionally, I'd say another principle that wasn't really held was the fact that the governor was able to kind of not implement or not follow a law that he didn't like. Right? Again, the law is still on the books. It passed the General Assembly and it was signed by the governor in 2020. And this current governor didn't like that law and pretty much did executive action or administrative action to get us out of it. And I think we've seen in Washington, D.C., with presidents that do similar things, and we might see more of that here in the Commonwealth. And so it's really alarming, frankly, that the General Assembly would agree to something that is in essence agree to the governor not implementing a duly passed law. Maybe it wasn't important enough to stand on that principle for RGGI and for climate. Maybe they'll do so for some other issue, but it's certainly a horrible precedent and an alarming precedent to set for, in essence, the three branches of the legislature, the House, the Senate, and the executive, to kind of agree that any law that's been duly passed and implemented in the Commonwealth does no longer need to be followed simply because people don't like it.
Yeah, they essentially overrode a law that had been passed. without passing another law to legally do that.
Correct.
Yeah, so that is alarming, as you said. And at this point, it's now with the courts, so we're waiting to see what will happen there.
Yeah, there's the court case, as we mentioned, in Floyd County. And I'm not a lawyer and can't really give you a technical update or much of an update. All I know is it's in process. Certainly I think some of the energy efficiency providers, kind of the home energy audit folks, have standing, has been determined, and that court case is proceeding forward. But that's about all I know at this point. And should, they win, what would that mean? I'm not really sure either. So we'll just have to stay tuned for that and make sure that we're paying attention to, the legal experts when the time comes for that.
Right. Another thing I want to just point out is we had asked people to reach out to their legislators about RGGI, especially in this last step that happened, that unfortunately we were very disappointed by the choices that were made. And I've received emails back from some legislators pointing to a number of environmental things that did get funding, and that is great. However, none of that approaches the amount that we're losing out on. This is funding that goes into people's livelihoods and jobs, because many jobs are related to energy efficiency and everything that goes into that. We're missing out on projects to substantially lower energy bills, to make us more resilient in a number of ways. It's really a tragedy for the state. And it's something that our legislators still need to hear from us, that we're very disappointed about that. At this point, there's no really remaining decision that the General Assembly is going to make to impact this. So what is something that people can do at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rosina. As you said, like the 2024 General Assembly is complete. And so this decision won't be changed really won't have the potential to be changed until January 2025. We could see the same thing all over again. Perhaps we'll have the same legislature and the same governor, 7 months from now. But I would encourage people to continue to reach out to their legislators. Certainly there's, the current General Assembly is not up for election this year, but there are primaries, especially in competitive congressional seats right now, up until June 18th. So for about the next, 3-4 weeks, folks are going to be active out there. And then certainly in the fall, folks will be on the campaign trail for the federal election, but really the summer is also a great time to reach out to folks and consistently let people know that this is an issue. Perhaps a year from now, we will have a similar opportunity. And ultimately, at the end of the day, there was, again, closed doors negotiation, and RGGI just wasn't a high enough priority for folks in the General Assembly to hold the line. And we want to make sure that we reach out to legislators and let them know that it needs to be, right. At the end of the day, they're funding this or funding that, but not requiring RGGI. And they could have held the line. Who knows? Maybe we would have had a government shutdown. Maybe not. Depends on what you believe and who you believe. But at the end of the day, if folks aren't really standing up and fighting for the climate and standing up and fighting for environmental justice, we need to let them hear from us and let them know that it needs to be a bigger priority than it has been.
Yeah, that's really, all those things that you mentioned are all really important. And I would guess that maybe the average person in Virginia doesn't know about RGGI. And, that's just raising awareness about it, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's a no-brainer, but if most people aren't aware of it in the first place, everyone should know that they are currently losing out on tens of millions of dollars in funding. And that's just ongoing until this gets fixed.
Right. And so, again, it has two major buckets of the funds. One, it funds low-income energy efficiency projects. Perhaps, the people watching this are low income or not. you might not benefit from that directly, although certainly the electrical grid benefits if people are using less electricity. That lowers the demand, lowers their requirement to build more power plants, which is great. And then in terms of the community flood preparedness, that does impact everybody. These are the kinds of things, again, it's not just coastal, it's not just Hampton Roads or Chesapeake Bay, where we're seeing sea level rise, and we're seeing, recurrent flooding, king tide flooding, all that sort of stuff. Also seeing people's water systems and aquifers get, salt intrusion or septic intrusion. But again, we saw in Southwest Virginia where you had those just tragic floods that we had from kind of the mountains of Southwest Virginia and Kentucky and West Virginia. But again, so it's benefiting those areas, but it's Central Virginia, it's Shenandoah, Northern Virginia. I mean, every place in the Commonwealth needs, the infrastructure to be improved to handle the increase in rainfall that we're getting, the increase in tropical storms we're getting. We have this built environment, and it wasn't built to withstand the amounts of water that are kind of coming down in these storms that we're getting. And so in order to not have that kind of consistent flooding and even life-threatening flooding at times, we need to kind of improve what we have here in Virginia in the built environment and make it more resilient and safer. And that benefits entire communities and benefits the entire Commonwealth. And hundreds of millions of dollars currently are being unallocated. And then, yes, at each auction, we missed an auction in March. We're going to miss an auction again in June, and every quarter moving forward, where we would just be missing hundreds of millions of dollars at a time, a couple $100 million annually that we'll be missing, and just by not participating in RGGI. And that's really money that we could use to benefit the entire Commonwealth. And so certainly let your legislators know that this needs to be a bigger priority, because it just wasn't big enough for the legislators, big enough priority, and they let it kind of fall to the cutting room floor when the sausage was getting made in the closed door negotiations.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I just wanted to make sure people knew where things were at, even though it is disheartening to learn where things are at. But hundreds of people in our network took action, and they need to know, where things landed and what they can do in the future. Even though this is very upsetting and a shame that we're at where we are now, we have to look ahead to the future. We have to keep advocating and pushing and doing everything we can to bring this back, and also just take every other action available to us. And part of that is voting. Like you mentioned, there are elections currently happening. That's one tool. We have to use all the tools that are available to us, and know that when we are all acting together, it does add up to something quite powerful, and that when we don't act, that is felt as well. So Absolutely. Thank you very much, Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you, Rosina, and just encourage everyone to keep up the fight.
Okay. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.